This city is often called a city of artists. There are good reasons for that. The brilliant Rembrandt was born and raised here. Beside him, such famous Holland artists of the Golden Age had been working as David Bailey, Gerard Dou, Jan van Goyen, Lucas van Leiden, Gabriel Metsu and Jan Stenter. In this regard, we can surely say that this city, that gave to the world such great artists, has a right to be the capital of high art, since the genius creators of the great masters can tell us about it. We should note that the city is known not only for its artists, it also has the oldest university of the Kingdom of Netherlands. That still remains one of the most prestigious universities and where the students come from around the world. So this city has the right to be called the city of youth and knowledge. The local residents consider the main water artery, the Rapenbroek Canal, as one of the most beautiful canals in the world. And it is only one of the many small rivers passing through the city. That's why it's often called the City of Canals. If you ask any citizen of the city, they will start boasting of these three treasures: the artists, the university and the canal. When flying over the city, we leaned against the windows and kept looking at the city beneath us. You must be guessing now what city they are talking about. This time we have come to the city of Leiden to visit our compatriot. Today around 20 Kazakhstanis live in Leiden. Some came here to get new knowledge, others came for other reasons. The hero of today's program, Uriya EN, is a very interesting and extraordinary person. Uriya EN was born in the steppes of Saryarka in the family of accountant and construction worker from Karaganda. She spent several years of her childhood in Kamchatka due to her father's work. Later, Uriya's family moved back to Karaganda, where she grew up and enrolled in university. After graduating from Kargu with the major in international economic relations, she starts to work as a translator and later in the bank. Life is an endless change of times. Uriya's destiny makes a sharp turn. She meets her future husband, an American named Bob. After the wedding, they first move to Baku and later settle in Leiden.
На пике своей карьеры, да, то есть я работала в корпоративных финансах, потом риск-менеджером.
At the peak of my career, I was working in the corporate finances and later as an office manager. My husband was delegated to Baku. Well, he went first and later I joined him. It was hard for me to make this decision because the bank system was not so developed in Azerbaijan, so I thought I would have to take a break. We spent 6 months in Baku and I needed to make myself busy with something, and I always liked painting. So I started meeting with local artists there, getting my first experience.
Она моя лучшая половина, как мы говорим. И, конечно, она талантливая, как вы уже знаете.
She is my best half, as we say it. And of course, she is very talented, as you already know. Especially in art. But when we first met, I didn't know about it. She worked as a banker and quite successfully. And only later it became obvious that she is very talented, and she completely changed her career. I think she changed her career because she was not satisfied with her work in the bank. The way she gets satisfied is by creating art. And this truly makes her happy. The Rhine, Maas and Schelde are the largest rivers in Holland. The Rhine is the largest river in Western Europe. It flows through the Netherlands, France, Germany, Austria and Switzerland. The river is more than 1,000 kilometers long and starts on the highlands of the Alps. Over 900 kilometers of the river length are used by different water transport. In some places, there are water reservoirs where the river gets wider. In other places, there are tourist areas. The Rhine flows into the Northern Sea. The part of the Rhine that flows through Holland is famous for its special tourist places. Here the Rhine shores are green and beautiful. Everything had changed in Uriya's life in this beautiful Dutch town, both the profession and her views of life. She was foreign to the country without knowing the language. She changed her job because she had to bring up her children. Uriya started doing yoga, learned the secrets of photography and painting. Today, she is the artist that is well known in many countries. This is called destiny. If I still were living in Kazakhstan, I would be working in the bank. I never dreamed of becoming an artist when I was little, but now I can say that the art of painting is my life, says Uriya.
Я решила, что я хочу более серьезно заниматься живописью, потому что уже у нас на тот момент было 2 детей.
I decided to be more serious in art because at the time we already had 2 children, and the work in the bank usually takes a lot of energy, and often you work at some position that you almost have no days off. You get inspections all the time and so on. Perhaps the destiny knew where to take me, and maybe it made decisions for me. I continued my art and enrolled in the Royal Holland Art Academy and spent some time studying there. In the first year of studies, you have a chance to try all kinds of art, photography, painting, different kinds of visual arts. I met several good Holland artists, and one of them is Hans de Bruin. He is my first Dutch teacher.
Браун – это мой первый голландский учитель.
One of the oldest buildings in the city is the Leiden castle. According to the historical chronicles, the castle was built in the medieval times. At first, it was built of wood, but later on, during the reconstruction, the walls were replaced by the rock wall. In the 13th century, there was a war between the Counts of Holland and Leiden when the castle was destroyed, but later it was reconstructed. A little later, the castle lost its function of protecting people. And in the 14th century, people started calling it just a tower. And when the city started growing, the tower turned into its main landmark and historic relic. Today, both the locals and the Leiden visitors like to visit this place. Despite the fact that Uriya's life situations made her live in a different way, change her dream, be always ready for unscheduled meetings, withstand the difficulties, stay calm in the sharp turns, despite all that, she has always been pushing forward. Uriya's success and existing opportunities prove her endurance and determination. She worked in the Kazakhstan bank at a profitable and promising position, and abroad she started everything from scratch. And she opened new sides of herself by starting all over again. Not everyone can have this path, and not everyone can reach such results when starting something new.
Человек, она очень душевный, очень мягкий, теплый человек. Вот действительно теплый человек. С ней.
She has a big soul. She is very gentle and warm kind of person. It is a great pleasure to communicate with her, to deal with her. She is a very deep person. She cares about everyone. She wants to make everyone happy. She has no barriers, and she doesn't think of what she will say. Selecting her words when she talks, her speech just flows naturally. You can talk for hours with her. The poems on the building walls in Leiden are a special landmark of the city. Society Tegembild was established in 1989 by the Netherlands art administrators. In 1992, they initiated the project Poems on the Walls, or 101 Poems. One of the first buildings that was decorated with the poems was building New Stick 1, where they wrote a poem To My Flowers by one of the Russian poets, Marina Tsvetaeva. My poems, written early when I doubted that I could ever play the poet's part, erupting as though water from a fountain or sparks from a petard, and rushing as though little demons senseless into a sanctuary where incense spreads, my poems about death and adolescence that still remain unread, collecting dust in bookstores all this time where no one comes to carry them away. My poems, like exquisite precious wines, will have their day. Marina Tsvetaeva is one of my favorite poets. The project was completed in 2005. The last decorated house was the house at the corner of Landebroek and Zonneveldstadt streets, with the poems of Federico Garcia Lorca, De Profundis. In total, the poems of 101 poets were written on the Leiden city walls. On the one hand, the poems decorate the houses. On the other hand, they give people a chance to enjoy good poetry. Besides, this sightseeing proclaims the city in the world. Uriya is not only the art person. For the people of Holland, she is a representative of Kazakhstan, its culture and values. Most of her creations are about the traditions and life of the Kazakh nation, and thousands of people can get acquainted with it through her art.
Я знаю, что у нее очень сильная именно вот эта связь с родиной, то есть она рисует юрты, она рисует казахскую степь.
I know she has very strong ties with her motherland. She draws yurtas, the Kazakh steppes, at least in the works that I saw. And she has a lot of photos from Kazakhstan, very beautiful photos. She gave me some Kazakh instruments, so I learned to play one of them, sasernai, a very nice instrument. I will play it later on. Before I studied in the conservatory in Tashkent, where we studied the Kazakh music, we studied the music of all regions around us, and we studied the Uzbek music quite thoroughly, makom, dombra, and all Kazakh instruments. But I saw sasernai only in a book, and she gave it to me to play it. It's a very simple shepherd instrument, but it sounds beautifully. I like it a lot. I play it for children at the lessons. I have around 10 different flutes, and I show them the Japanese shakuhachi, and they find it funny to pronounce shakuhachi, and they recognize sernai. I mean, everybody knows sernai. They may not know what Kazakhstan is like, but the children know what sernai is. Rembrandt's name can be heard on the Leiden streets. The streets, squares, bridges, hotels, and even the tourist center are named after the famous artist. Here people can see the sculpture of the gifted painter. There is a small house on the Wedderstick alley that leads from the Rembrandt Bridge. Right here, Rembrandt van Rijn was born and spent his childhood. But in 1906, the house was destroyed and the existing building was reconstructed. Nevertheless, the city residents consider this house as Rembrandt's cradle. The wall on the house says, "Here, in 1606, Rembrandt van Rijn was born on July the 15th. The square, named after the artist, starts right from the entry to the building. Leiden has many scenic rural landscapes. Everywhere you can hear the birds singing, look at the hills, walk around the farms. The city residents prefer bicycles as the transportation. Bob and Uriya also ride bicycles. Every weekend they go outside the city to enjoy the fresh village air, play with animals and feed them. Uriya's family has one son and two daughters that are interested in science and art just like their parents. During our visit, Uriya's son sang for us and said hello to his historical motherland. and the daughters, that so much like both parents, have dressed in Kazakh traditional clothes and performed a folk dance. The fact that the children grow kind and gifted is all thanks to Uriya. Of course, she is a good mother and talented artist, and this had a certain impact on them, said the children's teacher about Uriya.
Это пример всем воспитать таких хороших троих детей, которые очень хорошо говорят.
Bringing up these good children is an example for everyone. They are children that speak Russian very well and keep their own traditions. They speak English and Dutch. You can tell that mother pays a lot of attention to keeping their own traditions here, which is quite hard since she is the only one here, and it all comes from her. I think that children also feel themselves as part of this culture. Leiden is the city of artists. Well, this is logical because Rembrandt was born here. You can see art workshops on the busy streets, and in many corners of the city you can find artists with brushes and notebooks who get together in a circle and talk about the art. By looking at it, Uriya made it a habit to meet with friends and colleagues. We happened to be eyewitnesses of one of such meetings.
Обладает внутренним творческим потенциалом, что когда я ее узнала, познакомились мы вполне.
She has an inner creative potential. When we met, it was quite ordinary. It was in a Russian school. First, it was the relations between the teacher and the parent. But later, when you get to know her better, you find out that she literally radiates creativity and has a rich inner world. At that time, I studied in the Harlem Academy, and I decided that this lady must go there. I also made a presentation. They looked at her work, and the teachers accepted her straight away. Everyone who knows Uriya speaks about her diligence, savvy and courage. The courage to start some new and unknown business. Uriya faced many obstacles on her way of becoming an artist. There were also times when she was desperate and wanted to quit creating. However, her determination has been leading her to new heights.
I give lessons to people who live in Leiden or in the neighborhood of Leiden, and that's where I met Uriya. She came on a painting class, and she painted directly pretty well, and as I recognized, she painted the most themes of our homeland. That's what I think it's most interesting what people can do, to paint your own feelings or your own history. And that's what I try to develop and to talk about it with Uriya and the technical way of painting.
There are very few Kazakh families in Holland. They get together far away from home, share their secrets and thoughts. They keep their traditions. Our hero is an organizer of such meetings for the soul. This time, because of our arrival and because of her birthday, she gathered all Holland Kazakhstanis and organized a celebration night. The guests were served with authentic Kazakh dishes, and the table was full of them. Uriya's entrepreneurial attitude must be a good example for every Kazakh, says Jambul, who came to Holland to study. She's trying to unite us, the Kazakhs, who live now in Holland, by conducting different kinds of events, and I think this is wonderful. During the interview, we asked Uriya if she has any regret that she left her bank career. She said sometimes she does, but only sometimes. But is there a life without regret? We saw that Uriya's point of life is to be a good wife, bring up smart children, be successful in her art, and make her family happy. We think it's important to remember that a diligent, goal-oriented, talented and successful Kazakh girl, Uriya, lives in the Holland city of Leiden. In the end of our meeting, according to our tradition, we gave our presents to Uriya, wished prosperity and well-being to this beautiful and kind family, and went on for a new journey. Ahead of us lie undiscovered cities, new meetings with our friends and with our brothers.